so this is my last thing to say. And everyone listening to this has most likely already gone over this a million times. But I have to talk about it because it is.
We have to. So you guys have not talked about this saga.
No, we didn't. We skipped it because it happened before we were doing the JFK episode, and we wanted to make that.
Keep in mind, there was a lot of people listening to this show who are not online, and for some reason they listen to this show, and God bless them.
All right. Well, I will run all through the whole thing, and honestly, I don't even know if I have anything to say about it other than I'm in awe.
Well, we're going to do a reading soon.
Yes, at the very end. This is the most amazing thing that any op-ed writer has ever done, because we've talked about that's been our bread and butter for 3 years now, making fun of the cosseted idiocy of the pundit class, elite opinion holders, and how oafish and self-centered and absolutely pig-headed they are. No one in all of our time talking about these guys, including things like the Rod Dreyer's exorcism live tweeting, have come close to the sheer, insane, self-absorbed, oblivious mania of this man. Now, we've talked about him a number of times on the show. New York Times op-ed writer Bret Stephens. We all know him. We all love him. This motherfucker last week, he was on Twitter name searching himself, like you do, and
like we do,
like we all do, and he found a tweet by a Loby professor that called him a bedbug in a joking fashion. Had 9 faves and 0 retweets.
First off, are you okay? Second, what the fuck?
In response to this, Bret Stephens emailed the professor and CC'd his boss at the university he teaches at to tell him how he did not feel like it's a professional or virtuous.
Oh, do you have that email?
Yeah, let me find it.
Yeah, Dear Dr. Karf, someone just pointed out a tweet you wrote about me, calling me a bed bug.
Someone just pointed it out. There is no fucking way that some random person found this 0 retweet. He fucking found it.
No,
liar.
It's also like minutes after it was tweeted.
Yeah.
I'm often amazed about the things supposedly decent people are prepared to say about other people. People they've never met on Twitter. I'm always surprised about how people could be fake people. I think you've set a standard. I would welcome the opportunity for you to come to my home, meet my wife and kids, talk to us for a few months, and then call me a bed bug to my face. That would take some genuine courage and intellectual integrity on your part. How would it take intellectual integrity?
Yeah.
I promise to be courteous no matter what you have to say. Maybe it will make you feel better about yourself. Please consider this a standing invitation. You are more than welcome to bring your significant other. Cordially, Bret Stephens. Why want to go? I want to do it.
Yes,
We should all go together as a show to Bret Stephens' house. He should make us din-din.
No, he's going to do fondue. We'll dip the bread into the boiling cheese and call him a bedbug.
I hate talking about him usually because he's very dull.
Oh,
he's
terrible
a very
writer.
Boring, bad
vapid
writer.
dipshit.
Also, he doesn't have any interesting opinion. None of his opinions are freakish enough to be funny, like Ross Dutat.
He's one of those guys who fucking quit Twitter and wrote a fucking article about quitting Twitter, and then guess what? Didn't do it. Now he like fucking name searches and bitches about it.
And he said he quit again. He'll be back. But this is like the coolest. We're gonna get into his article.
Oh, we're gonna do the whole thing.
Let's do it.
But no, I would just want to say, so that's the first thing, is that a guy, he name searches a guy who calls him, he narcs on his boss and invites him to fuck his wife in front of him while calling him a bedbug.
Yeah. Which again, we, Chapo Trap House, offer to do.
Absolutely.
We will seduce your wife, Bret.
We will.
I do like, the email was very, like, he wanted to be dommed.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh, big
it's
time.
Like, I'm amazed by how you people act. I invite you to, maybe bring your wife to my house, make her 50 feet tall, and squish me like a bug. You really want to say that to me? I want you to tie me up, roast me like a turkey, and eat me for dinner.
So he not only tries to get this guy fired, he claimed later that he wasn't trying to get him fired, but why would he said I wanted his boss to know what his employee was doing. Why? What? For what reason would you do that?
No, that's trying to get him fired.
It's only to get him fired.
Yeah.
So he offers to have a weird swinger fondue party with this guy and also get him fired.
Which, again, I want to be invited to.
Obviously, he goes on TV to defend himself, lies out his ass about how he wasn't trying to get the guy fired, and it was a huge humiliating
he went on
moment.
TV?
He did, and that's where he claimed.
What?
Yes, he was interviewed, and he said, I wasn't trying to get him fired.
On where? MSNBC?
It was one of the morning shows, and he's like, I wasn't trying to get him fired. I think it was MSNBC. I wasn't trying to get him fired. I just thought his boss should know what was going on, the kind of horrible hate speech that's going on. So, of course, everyone made fun of him. We all had a good laugh. And if that was the end of it, it would still be like maybe a top 5 moment in op-ed insanity. I mean, this guy who, it's been pointed out a million times, has spent his career, calling Palestinians mosquitoes and using every bit of language in his arsenal to demean anybody who he considers lesser. All of a sudden, and he's talked a million times about how the necessity for being able to have your feelings hurt and how there's no safe spaces and everybody needs to sack up and all these college students need to stop crying. And now he's doing this. Obviously, everyone knows this. Hilarious. And if that had been it would have been amazing on its own. But then the motherfucker topped himself. Instead of just trying to let it go, even though it led the president of the United States to tweet about him, the president said after this happened, he, quote, the infestation of bedbugs at the New York Times office at OANN was perhaps brought in by lightweight journalist Bret Stephens, a conservative who does anything that his bosses at the paper tell him to do. He is now quitting Twitter after being called a bedbug. Tough guy. So he went from a guy with 1,000 followers doing a 9-fave tweet calling him a bedbug. Within 3 days, the president of the United States calling him a fucking bedbug. It trended for like 2 days, and then he finally actually deactivated his account. And for the last time, give him 3 weeks. He'll be back. I guarantee you. He's a little pain piggy.
He's going to sneak back in.
That's the only good argument for posting online is it can cause the president to do something like that.
Now, this is already, like I said, a top-tier cell phone, one of the greatest cell phones ever. But then instead of just letting it die down, because you can do anything. You have no supervision. You have no oversight if you're on the op-ed page. It's a license to kill. You could write about anything. You could write about his rose garden. He could go back to writing about safe spaces without a hint of self-awareness. Instead, this motherfucker on Thursday dropped this op-ed.
It's a nuke. This is the Tsar Bomba of op-eds.
Oh, absolutely. This could crack the earth in half.
By the way, just a heads up, if you're the Sulzberger and you want us to stop making fun of your shitty fucking op-ed writers, hire me as an op-ed writer, because I would be the Dave Barry of the New York Times op-ed page. I would just write pleasant humor pieces about like just the day-to-day things that are just vexing.
See, but the problem there is that no one's going to share that in anger on Twitter, and that's the entire op-ed business model now. And that's why I got to say, we've talked about how bad Bret Stephens is as a writer and how pointless his shit is. He is able to do stuff like this. He'll always have a job.
Nevertheless,
because people will
my offer stands. If you want someone to talk about how, soaps just aren't as good as they used to be.
If you want someone that will ask his friends to dress up like Spider-Man and take pictures of them and say that Spider-Man's real now, I will do that job. If you want someone to just hang out in the newsroom and give people encouragement, I'll probably do that. Better yet, if you want someone to abuse the journalists, I will do that.
I'm really good at doing journalism.
So instead of just letting it go by over the transom, on Thursday, Bret Stephens, a man who, from all of this, we have to surmise, has never been criticized by anyone in his life to his face and has never read criticism of him until last year, wrote this: World War II and the ingredients of slaughter.
This owns. This is the most I've ever liked him, because it's like, this is possibly the worst reaction you could have to anything.
Once again, before you read that, should be noted is a fucking climate change denier who believes that Palestinians are a type of bug people.
And that we should
literally called them mosquitoes.
And that war with Iran is inevitable and righteous.
Like a wretched, worthless human being. There's absolutely nothing of value in his writing.
And then the subhead: The spirit of certitude that dominated the politics of the 1930s is not so distant from us today.
This owns.
Here we go. World War II began 80 years ago this Sunday after Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact that was, in fact, a mutual aggression pact.
Not true.
It was called the non-aggression pact, idiot. Look it up. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. Russia's invasion of Poland, no less murderous, followed 2 weeks later. Gonna need a site on that one. Auschwitz and whatnot. You might want to look that up. On November 3rd of that year, Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, gave Hitler a report of his trip to Poland. Quote, above all, my description of the Jewish problem gets Hitler's full approval, he wrote in his diary. The Jew is a waste product. It is a clinical issue more than a social one. For several years, many commentators, including me, have written about the parallels between the pre-war era and the present. There's the rise of dictatorial regimes intent on avenging past geopolitical humiliations and redrawing borders. Germany, Italy, Japan, and Russia then. China, Iran, and Russia now. Of course, Iran. Got to throw Iran in there.
Yeah.
Got to get Iran in there.
You hit bonus, Bret.
There's the unwillingness of status quo powers to coordinate their actions, confront dictatorships, stamp out regional wars, and rise to global challenges. The League of Nations then, the G7 now. When will you nuke Tehran, you cowards? There's the upsurge of nativist rancor, protectionist barriers, and every nation for itself policies, along with the deep doubts about the viability of liberal democracy and the international order. Father Coughlin and America Firsters then, Donald Trump and America Firsters now. All that plus three crucial factors: new forms of mass communication, the rhetoric of dehumanization, and the politics of absolute good versus absolute evil. The relatively, yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that people, they weren't nuanced. You know, the way that Bret is about Palestine and
The Bush,
Iran.
Bush Republican, by the way.
Yeah. You know, that the famous nuance that went into the invasion of Iraq that we all know and love. So he talks about radio. He basically says that radio is like the Twitter of the 1930s. Radio then, like Twitter today, was the technology of the id, a channel that could concentrate political fury at a time when there was plenty to go around. It was also a time when ideology dictated that fury be directed at entire classes of people. The decade began with Soviet propaganda cheering Stalin's announcement of the liquidation of the kulaks as a class, a reference to millions of Ukrainian peasants who would die of forced starvation in the Holodomor. That's not true either.
Needed.
Yeah, that's absolutely not in any way a historical consensus. Here we go. The political mindset that turned human beings into categories, classes, and races also turned them into rodents, insects, and garbage. Wait a minute.
Wait, hang on. Are you saying like any sort of thing that attempts to sort people based on their position,
like classes,
based on the means of production?
Like noting that there's a class, like there's two different classes and they have different relationships to means of production, and some are exploited by others. That's, I got to tell you, dude, that's basically Nazism. I hate to let you know. Quote, anti-Semitism is exactly the same as delousing, Heinrich Himmler would claim in 1943. Getting rid of lice is not a matter of ideology. It is a matter of cleanliness. Watching Warsaw's Jewish ghetto burn that year, a Polish anti-Semite was overheard saying, the bedbugs are on fire. The Germans are doing a great job. The bedbugs are on fire. Where did that turn? Did anyone remember that word? Why would he? What? That seems random that would be in there.
Someone look that up.
Yeah, well, the thing is that there's a hyperlink. All right, this is the topper of toppers. There's a hyperlink in that quote, and it leads you to a Google Books search for a book called. This is so top tier. This is the most amazing thing that anyone has ever done.
Okay, links to the search.
It's a book about the Jews in Poland during World War II. And it's called Secret City, The Hidden Jews of Warsaw, 1940 to 1945. And what was not removed from the link was the search that was, because you go into Google Books, you put a search for words, and then it'll give you returns in the text. And someone, presumably Bret Stephens, wrote in the box, Jews as bedbugs. So what happened?
To find it was anti-Semitism, he went into Google book search and just typed in Jews bedbugs.
Yes.
He just picked the first result, or the only result, actually.
The only result.
And then he put it in his fucking article to say this was anti-Semitic.
Oh, also in the book, they're like, This also may have literally just been about bed bugs.
Yes. The text that he cites does not even claim that the quote had anything to do with Jews. It might well have been about bed bugs.
Bret Stephens owns
This is just, no one has ever approached this in the history of op-ed writing. This is a week of posting and writing that will never be topped, in my opinion.
I will have to say that as a scholar of people being mad online, this is a new strain of being mad online. The aggressive Google search to try to prove that what you're mad about is actual racism and other people should care about it.
And that he is basically a Auschwitz ghetto Jew.
Felix
for being called a bed bug by
Felix,
a dude
Felix, I'm
on
sorry.
Twitter.
I never knew what you had to deal with.
I know, yeah, no. I mean, well, don't, I just catch the collateral strays off it. It's really Adam is the biggest victim of all time.
That's true. But I mean, every time I know that you're on Twitter, you're on Twitch and you're playing Fortnite, and when you get called like
more CS now.
When you get called like a turbo homo by some 14-year-old, now I know that's essentially that's like
What,
crystal
yeah,
meth.
That would be, yeah.
What a 3-year-old headshots you at Fortnite.
It'd be funny to I wish there was localized chat in Fortnite to just send somebody like a Google book search for Jew is try hard. Let's see that trope in history. Just sending them you say that I'm one time Michael clipped I killed this guy, this Twitch streamer, and he went clearly hacking.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to look for evidence of Goebbels accusing the Jews of hacking.
The Jews have clearly hacked the Western economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hitler at Nuremberg claimed that the Jews are posting cringe throughout Europe.
No one's ever tried this.
No.
This is and it's also this is the least boring thing Bret has ever done.
Oh, absolutely. No, he is, even when he's annoying, he's boring.
Yeah.
This is the first time that he has injected his just oatmeal slop with any real personality and vigor, and it is just the personality of an insanely thin-skinned little Fauntleroy, a little Francis Buxton fancy lad, because remember, he grew up the child of a fucking oil CEO in Mexico City with a squadron of maids to powder his bottom every day.
Yeah, that's literally like Buchenwald.
Yeah, and has never faced any kind of critical interdiction his entire life, because he went straight from college to he was the fucking editor of the Jerusalem Post when he was 25 years old, then went to the Washington Post, then straight to the New York Times. Just the softest life anyone in history has ever lived. Never encountered a single critical interdiction into their just soft-brained, mundane, reactionary horseshit.
I admire it because I would like to have a soft life and not have to interact with any sort of negative criticism ever.
Yeah, and he's mostly conditioned. He's mostly made that happen. But then,
I actually agree with him, because anytime anyone ever contradicts any of us or says something vaguely mean to us, that's harassment, and I report them to Jack, and they get banned.
No, I would like to, have an easy life like him. Unfortunately, when anyone criticizes me, I will name search the post and I will swat the offending person. But that's a lot of work, and it's maybe illegal. I don't know.
But my favorite thing about this is that, Bret always gets you angry because she's like, this guy has he has one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in media, and he uses it for just drivel and boring horseshit. He's only there because the New York Times felt they needed another conservative after Trump won, but they're too much of a bunch of fucking weak-bladdered Nancys to post to put in an actual Trump supporter.
What if you don't need conservatives, actually, because there's literally no conservative who has anything to add to any conversation ever?
I mean, I would like to see just a Q guy on there just for the fun.
Right, a real Republican.
Just
an actual median Republican.
You're actually getting an insight into the thoughts of real voters, and that's interesting.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
Get rid of Brad. Get rid of whatever other Ross. Get rid of the fucking fake conservatives who represent maybe 100 people max, and get someone in hashtag MAGA, hashtag destroying
Michael Flynn's son. Perfect choice.
Oh God, Michael Flynn Jr. would be amazing. I saw a guy on TikTok who was wearing he was a huge round man wearing a ill-fitting Trump t-shirt, and he was dancing in front of like a CGI image of a fire, and it said on the screen, it said, "When I hear the Amazon is burning," and he had a gas can and he was pouring it onto the fire and dancing and throwing his hands up in the air. Give him that fucking spot.
If you actually,
let me know what's going on in his head.
If you actually want ideological balance, yes.
Yeah.
If you really want to be the paper of record that represents the majority of people, that's what you need.
But the thing is that, so that was always annoying and I always got mad at Bret, but now I will always cherish the fact that as much as he is in the catbird seat in media, got the best job in punditry, it still tortures him and he hates it. And he's miserable because he has to deal with criticism, which he cannot handle.
Yeah, but let's cut the shit. I think we solve this one day. Bret Stephens, take us to your apartment, make us din-din.
Yes.
We will come there.
Yes.
We'll have a nice meal, and we'll scream at you to your face.
Yes,
we'll be nice about it. We're not going to be violent.
Yes.
We're not going to be mean.
No, we're not even going to raise our voices. We'll just tell you what you are.
Like very calm, even voices tell you what a piece of shit you are.
And we will Twitch stream it. The other thing is he's either tortured or he loves it and he's a little pain piggy. And then that makes me even more mad.
I don't think he's a pain piggy.
Which makes me want to yell at him more, which he would only love more.
I don't think he's a pain piggy. I think he's just like, doesn't know how to respond to this, which is shocking to me. But I guess like if you look at being the editor of the Jerusalem Post, the opinions you publish are just like different. Like you have their little like dot matrix printouts like you have in the Wall Street Journal, but it's just two men with really low hairlines.
Stipple pictures.
Yeah, it's stipple pictures like staring at each other. And the entire they have a debate column, and it's just them shoving each other at a restaurant called Pizza Buffet.
Boys, I think we've gone on for like 4 hours. So
Yeah.
we should probably cut it.
Yeah. Anyway, point is, there are many societies in the world. A lot of them had bugs. Bugs, that shit was tropes. It was not vibes. It was tropes.
Friends, as we always intend on this show, you're dumber now for having listened to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like how do you encounter this week of discourse in the paper of record, the thing that's supposed to set the standard for America's political conversation, and come away with any thought other than we are just hooting gibbons, screeching towards annihilation, just stabbing our brains out with knitting needles?